Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to do some lemons, and I'm going to do, kind of a simple background color, and then we're just going to paint them in freehand. I'm not going to pre-sketch anything. I don't even know. We're just going to wing it, and that's part of the fun. I'm going to use a large square brush first to paint the background. You can use even we're going to do almost a solid background for this, so you can even use a really huge brush to make the process go a little quicker. I'm going to create a very light off-white color. So notice how I have some already a little bit of this like peachy color in here. I'm going to add more white to that. So to get this color, you're just using a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow and then a lot of white. So mostly white with a tiny bit of red and yellow. So it's going to give you this, it's like peach, but super light, almost pure white. And if you want to add like, a little bit of a, peachy, a little bit more peachy color, like less white, that's fine too. Just use less white. You can take, do your preference here. Or maybe I want to have a little bit of a pink undertone, so I'm going to add a little bit more red. It's like very slight, but it's still super light. So we'll see the difference. You'll notice the difference when we add it to the canvas. And I'm using a giant brush. And then I'm just painting the whole thing with a base coat of that super light color. Maybe want a little bit more pinkish. A little bit. Then just get it in there. Again, if you want, you can always take a little bit of water onto your brush. Just dip it in there. And then mix it into your paint, especially for these solid backgrounds. Makes it a little easier to get it on there. And then once we get this on there, we want it to dry. So I'm gonna hit it with the blow dryer. And then we'll start to layer our design on top of this. But we have this base coat of this really soft peach color, which almost looks white, but it's not. So we're gonna blow dry it, and then we'll start painting on top. So, but if you don't want to blow dry it, you can just take a break, pause it, come back, and then start painting the rest when you're ready. All right, once you've got it really dry, we're going to switch over to a smaller brush. So it can be just a small round brush of sorts that's totally something you can customize. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm using. And I'm going to use this to sort of sketch out my shapes, and then we'll begin coloring everything in. It's super easy. Now I'm going to do this with pink. So I'm just using white and red, but a lot of white. I don't want it to be too dark. That way we can really easily paint over it. But if it shows through a little bit, that's okay too. We're doing really loose and abstract today. We're not making it all, I want you to just play. Now I'm going to put 3 lemons. I'm going to put one at the top. So if I find the middle, I want to be right towards the middle of the canvas up here. And then I'm going to paint the lemon on a slight diagonal very close to the top. So do a diagonal rainbow shape and then a diagonal smiley face. And then at the tip of the lemon, you can make a little kind of bump. You know how lemons are. And you know how lemons are, they're all different sizes. So don't get too fixated on making it perfect. And I might even make this a little bigger. So if you want to make it bigger, just go around the shape. Do the same thing, but make it slightly bigger. Now I have the shape, but it's a little bigger. And then here, I'm going to do the same thing, come down just a little bit, and I'm going to have it facing the other way. So I'm going to do a diagonal rainbow shape, kind of going over to the right like that, and then over to the left. And then maybe do that like that. And then one more coming down here, going back more like the same way this one's going, or similar. Okay, so now I have my 3 lemons. And then I'm going to paint some leaves. So from here, this is going to be like the tops of the lemons. So I'm going to have a stem coming out here, like make a little line coming off the canvas. And then maybe I have another one coming down through here, like that, like just a line. Just make a line going all the way across like that. It's fine. And then maybe I have a little stem coming here. And then you maybe have some stems coming over here and coming down on the left. Just imagine these like branches. I shouldn't say stems, more like branches. And then maybe coming out of here, I just have some leaves coming out. So I will do that. But from the branches, I'm going to make leaves. So I'm going to make this into a leaf right here. You're just painting a leaf shape, which is very much like kind of like a little surfboard type shape, but it can be curvy or whatever. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to do another one here. And obviously you could sketch this with a pencil or something like that, but I don't really like doing that much. I mean, I do sometimes. It's not like I never do it. Sometimes I just like to get in there with the paint, and that's more my thing. And you can paint over any of those branches with a leaf. Just make those shapes wherever you want to see them. And I'm going to paint some leaves coming out over here, out of the left corner. And then up here, we'll have some little lemon flowers. So make a couple little dots clustered together. And maybe we'll do some down here. I'm just going to do 3 little dots. And then from those shapes, you can paint little surfboard shapes coming out of the center to make a little flower shape. Try to do at least 5 petals. So for your flowers, but they're small. Making like, it's like a little surfboard that comes out. Don't overanalyze it. A lot of times people are like, wait, what? I say, but just put it in. See what happens. Make mistakes. I like to make mistakes. It's where some of the most learning happens for me, is when I just kind of go dive in and do it, and then I mess up a little, and I'm like, ooh, now I know. So I'm making those little flowers, and they can be kind of clustered together because that's how they would be in real life. And some of them can come off a little bit, so it's totally okay to have them like that. And then we want to leave some empty space too. So I'm not going to go too crazy, but I'll probably add a few more leaves over here. Let's just do a couple more coming off this part. All right, and then I'm good. Now I'm going to take a bigger square brush to color things in with a base coat. So for my lemons, I'm going to use obviously yellow and white. Now I might want to warm my yellow a bit by adding some red to it. So not too much, just a bit. And then there, I'm pretty good with that. I'm going to go ahead and color in the lemon shapes. You can color over the pink outline, or you can leave a little bit showing. So now I have the lemon colored in. Notice how you can see the little outline from where I did my first layer here. I just make it a little thicker, and we'll paint more layers. You won't notice it in the end. My perfectionists are always going to be like, oh my gosh. And I know that because I am one. I'm a perfectionist, so I look at that and go, oh no. But I also just go, oh, I know I can paint over it. So, and I know that once this dries and then I add another layer, which I will do, that you won't notice it. So that's why I don't really freak out anymore. Because you learn that, it's going to come together. Now, once I have that all in, you don't even need to clean your brush because I'm going to make some bluish kind of, actually, I want my petals to be more like blue-gray to make it look kind of different and more surreal. So I'm using a little bit of yellow, but I'm using a lot of blue. So it's more of a teal, not necessarily a green. And then I'm even going to use a little bit of black, just a little bit. So there's a lot of blue, just a touch of yellow and a touch of black. And it's going to be pretty dark at first. So we're going to go in and color our leaves. And even if you don't have one sketched in and you want to add one, just add one. You know, add one freehand. I'm going to put one here. And I'm going to put another one here. See how I painted over the lemon a little bit? I'm going to do that. And then for this stem itself, I'm going to add more black to the color. And then just repaint the stem, but really roughly around the leaves. And you can even use some of that dark color on part of the leaves. Just paint a little bit of that on maybe the underside of them, or just wherever. I usually do my shadows on the underside of the shapes. But you want to try to see a few shades as you begin to color things in. Now you can do it right away, which is considered like a wet on wet technique, or you can wait and add it after it dries and layer it a little more deliberately. It really doesn't matter. Now I want to take a round brush for the petals of the little blossoms. So just get a round brush you prefer. And I'm going to use some pure white and color in those little petals that we made. Oops, I got a little yellow in there on accident. No big deal. Let's make it a little thicker. I think we're kind of brainwashed as people to think that there's a right way to do something, that you can't make something like that's worth value or that has any value that doesn't look or like realistic or something in art. And I highly admire people who've honed the skill of realism, which is just a really amazing skill that some people have worked really hard probably to achieve. But that doesn't mean you can't create if that's not your creative niche where you're like making something realistic. You could still make something and make it very abstract like what we're doing today. So I'm not making these perfect shapes. They're very loose, but they're still going to represent and look like the thing that we're going for. And that's all that matters. Now, while I have this white on, I'm going to add it to my yellow. And maybe just like a little bit more. I want to give it like a nice bright color here, or brighter shade of yellow. And then we're going to go in and just start dabbing towards the kind of the top sides. I'm just dabbing. Little dabs, little dabs. And notice how it's brightening it up a little bit in part of the shape. And then you can also take that bright yellow in the middle of those flowers. Let's put a little dab in the middle of them. So you have that light yellow on the lemon as a highlight, and then you're also putting it in the middle of your little lemon flowers. Now I'm going to clean the brush because I want to create some shadows for the lemon. And those are going to be basically you're having the yellow and then add a little more red to it for more of an orange color. And then you can even add a tiny bit of blue to make it a little bit more rustic looking. So it's mostly yellow, a little bit of red, a little bit of blue until you get this yellow brown kind of color. And then this is going to go on the underside. Now you can do kind of just some lines on the underside. See, I can come to the underside and just do some dabs like that. Or you can do some of the tapping like we did for the highlight. And you can go around the edge. So, but keep it really toned down. So I'm just gonna do the bottom part, the edges a little bit. And then you can kind of dab it up into the space to make it look like the shadow's there, but it's not as heavy. So you're giving it some different looks there, which is good. And then we're gonna let that go. Let's do something with the leaves here. I'm gonna use some blue, a little bit of white, and a tiny bit of red to create a highlight color for the leaves, which is gonna go towards the top. But you can also do some little stripes on them like this. So I can kind of pull a line through the middle of the shape. And then on one side, maybe not the shadow side, maybe the light side. So I put a shadow on the right on this one. So on this side, I'll pull some lines coming out of the center with that lighter blue. So that just gives it some interest down here. We have this fun little shape. And if it doesn't pop out, add a little more white. So again, you can just go through the middle and then pull little lines coming out to the edge. You can do that here too. So pull through the middle, and then we'll do some little lines coming out. And or you can just do a line like a highlight. I'm going to do the lines. I'm leaving some of that pink outline showing because I just like the way it looks. Maybe you don't though. And if you want it brighter, add more white. So maybe in some parts you really pump it up and give it a little more brightness. I'm just going to outline the top of this one too because got a little rough with the base color. So you can always just paint where you want to, wherever you want. I'm going to kind of extend this leaf and give it a little more detail with that color. So notice how I can go and fine tune the tips of the leaves. You know, just do little things. Once you have that little brush, you can clean up your lines a little bit. I'm really rough at first because I know that I'm going to go in and layer over stuff anyways. So I don't really waste my energy on the details initially because I know that it's going to get painted over. And if I put all this effort into my base coat and then I paint over it, it's just kind of a waste of energy. So you can do it if you want. If it's enjoyable and therapeutic for you, then of course do it. But if you're like, oh, now I'm just painting over it, or if you're crunched for time and you want the result without so much effort, that's just one way to do it. So now we have those highlights, super fun. And then we can punch it up even more. So maybe you take your smallest paintbrush, a really, really little one, and you can use some pure, almost pure white, maybe just a tiny bit of yellow. And then you can go in and add even more little dabs right in the center of that highlight space to create a more predominant highlight on the lemon. And then you can also use another layer to do like another layer to your little leaves for your flowers if they need it. I left that pink showing so that it wouldn't look too flat and that it helps it jump off the light canvas a little bit. We can also take some of that really light color on our leaves. Just add a little bit to what's there. Not too much. We like that blue. We don't want to overpower that, but you can add to it a little bit. Sometimes it's fun to add just a little hint, a little pop, a little extra brightness to it to help it jump out, but you're not covering over that color all the way. So again, make sure you have some of that on the lemon. And then, you can do some crazy stuff in the end too. Like I can take some pure yellow, kind of ran out. Can get maybe a different shaped brush. You can do like the square brush or something and get some pure yellow. This is just a primary, and put it on the lemon like in thick little gobs, not on the highlight, but in between the highlight and the shadow. This just gives a little more vibrance to the color, and maybe you can tone down some of your shadows or highlights if you need to with that pure yellow, which is going to be very transparent. So you're going to still see the color that's underneath it when you put the pure yellow on, but it will give it a little bit more brightness. So those are fun things to do. And then you can even add a little bit of a different shading to the flowers themselves. Maybe you want a little bit of violet, which I do. So I'm going to take red with a little bit of blue and a lot of white. And I'm using that smallest brush. So red, blue makes purple. Add a lot of white, it makes it like a light violet. You want it a little warmer, use more red, more of a plum violet. You want it cooler, use more blue. But I have a lot of white mixed in. So much white. It's crazy. So much white. And then I'm going to go into my flower and just add a little bit of that towards the center. Around the yellow. It's like right to the base of the petals. But this can also be more of an outline too. So you want to outline the petals a little bit with this, you can. This is not meant to cover over the white. It's just adding to it and helping it give it a little more dimension. So especially if you lost the pink outline and you can't see those white flowers very well, you maybe use the violet to help it jump. If your violet gets too crazy, just come back with that like white color and paint over it again to make sure that it's predominantly white so that your flowers look white. And then if you want to make your shadows a little more intense, you can do that with the small brush. You can come to that shadow lemon color that we had, which had mostly yellow, just a little bit of red and a little bit of blue. But to make it more of a shadow, you can add more red and blue. Gives it more brown color. Make it a little darker. And go to the very outermost portion of the lemon. Right where you want the shadows to be the darkest. But again, if it gets too crazy, clean your brush, use your pure yellow, and soften. So the effect of this is like almost a blending effect, just using that pure yellow on top of some of the shadows or highlights and give them a little bit more subtlety. So you might need to do that, you might not. It really just depends on what you like. Do you like it more dramatic with it looking more intense, or do you want to tone it down? But you got to have the highlights and the shadows. Now you can also use just the pure black and give a little punch to your darkest portions of your leaves and your stem. So I'm just going into the underside of the leaves. Adding some pure black. Maybe not everywhere. This is, again, it's going to help you clean up the lines and then just make sure you have really dark colors. That way your really bright colors can pop. And then if you want to add a little more depth to the center of your flowers, you can use a darker shade of orange. So maybe I want to use just red and yellow for kind of an orange color, like a light orange or darker orange. It should look darker than what's there. And then just tap a little bit of that darker shade in to the center. And again, if it takes over, add more of the light color back. And then again, you can just go back and forth. Maybe you want some more pure white, some bigger chunks of it, scoop it up. Use any of your colors. To clean up your lines and play. I'm gonna let it go. I like it. So you have some really simple lemons, really pretty different kind of colors going on, this soft background. You can even hang it in your kitchen if you like it that much. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you had fun. Make sure to leave a comment. Let me know what else you'd like to paint, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thanks for painting with me. Bye.